Hi, everybody. Hello, 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 hello. Welcome, welcome. Today is going to be a cool episode of 2MW Sports. Not necessarily card chaos like the. Let me just double check. Can you hear me? Testing one with two, three. All right. Sorry, I was low. Today's going to be cool because we are reviewing the book Jordan Rules. And now typically we always do like the game show and that's coming back. But one of the members of the group, 2MW, which is going to be my co-host tonight, Jeremy, is very into the Jordan Rules. And we thought it would be cool to every week touch on a little bit of Jordan Rules before Scottie Pippen releases his book in November. But because we do a lot of card stuff, let me just show off one. I got one or two Jordans like hanging around, I can't help it. But this is Jordan card after the three-peat here. Cool stuff, right? Let me see if I could get it thing right here, Jordan. And then I have a baseball Jordan here with me. Got this from a friend that was walking the streets of Brooklyn and somebody was selling cards. So cool things. Anyway, tag a friend. We're going to talk about coaching, the coaches that really helped or form Jordan's career. We'll talk about other coaches too. Like Gruden is top of mind today, so we'll touch a little bit on Gruden as a warm up, and then we'll roll right into the topic at hand, which is Jordan rules. So tag a friend. The phone lines are open. Yeah, we have phone lines. And you guys can express yourselves. I'm gonna wait for. I'm gonna wait for Jeremy to show up. But while we do that, uh, guys, the whole John Gruden thing caught me by surprise, and I'm sure it did a lot of people, but not like Keyshawn and not like any of the players that were close to him or have been not close to him, but have been uh, one of the players under his administration, or I would say his tenure at some of these teams. And the first thing I thought about when this whole thing broke out was like, wow, Gruden's whole brand was like this clean cut guy who like was so into like the players and like just doing the whole breakdown of the players and making sure like people understood every aspect, and that was cool, and everybody loved that. And so if I had to give a categorize what he was or what his brand was, it was clean cut, just all about sports, all about like just football, 100%. And some things are not as they appear. So let me just post this into MW. Kyrie. Um Okay. So we're gonna wait a couple of minutes for Jeremy. Thank you everybody that you're already joining. As I mentioned before, we're gonna talk a little bit about Gruden. We're gonna touch a little bit about Kyrie and what's going on with there and with the Brooklyn Nets, and then we're gonna go into Doug Collins. They seem like three different topics, but they all are tied in for one thing, and that one thing is, what are the coaches doing? What are the coaches doing? Um, so shout out to the people that are watching, the three of you. Hi. Let me actually give you the phone line because that is 718-313-5155. Again, that's 718-313-5155. You can call in and give us your opinion about what's happening with Gruden. So Gruden resigned from the Las Vegas Raiders. What's up, Sharon? And the controversy was that some emails were found um, of his that were unbecoming. We'll put it that way. They had some racism in the language. They had some um, little bit of homophobia, and that kind of made things unravel for him. Um, so that is what it is. I'm not gonna. I don't want to go a little bit. I don't want to go deeper than what like with a personal opinion, but I do want to talk about what can lead from this. The whole thing started with an investigation of like an assistant trainer on Washington, and in that investigation they found emails that were from Gruden to other people in the team and other friends that were in the industry, whether it's the sports or business. And what I think is going to happen is that eventually there are going to be a lot of people that are going to be caught, or I guess put out in public or aired out in public for some of the things that they've said. And one of the things that were discovered was like the sharing of pictures. I believe it's pictures or video of the cheerleaders that were topless. And I watched something on CNN that talked about, well, not that talked about, but one of the, I think the head of the cheerleaders for the NFL had come on to MSNBC, sorry, to discuss like what she thought of what was happening in that situation, and pretty much her discuss. Um, I feel like there's gonna be a lot of people that are gonna get in trouble from this thing beyond Gruden, and it's the tip of the iceberg. But I have Jeremy. Jeremy is my co-host for the show and the podcast series today. And
Welcome.
Jeremy, thank you for coming on.
Yes, technical difficulties. I'm on.
Technical difficulties, but you're here. We're here. So I started warming up the group with talking about like Gruden, and not really talking about thoughts, but like more like a prediction on what's going to happen going forward. Your thoughts on like how big this could be, because Gruden I think is just the tip of the iceberg, but I'm I would love to hear what you think about this.
Uh, kind of shocked because I actually like Gruden, but basically what like this was what said over what 10 years ago, and
Yeah.
the league found this out by accident. So if a likable guy like Gruden could go ahead and say stuff like that, just imagine what uh, some of these others coaches, general managers, even reporters, because during that time he was employed by ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
When this is being said. So I
Yeah.
was reading an article today, like they pretty much said that he has no future in the league after this.
Yeah. So the I think the fallout has already begun. I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers like removed him from I forget what they call it, some award that they gave him
Mhm.
for like to honor him for his contribution, and so that's been removed.
Yeah.
And more things shall follow. I don't know everything he's been connected to, but yeah, they're starting to pull that away. And yeah, you're right. There's going to be a lot of other people, a lot of other um yeah, the Ring of Honor. Yes, Sharon, thank you. The Ring of Honor is what was removed, or Gruden's name was removed from, and it's really just the tip of the iceberg. For other he's the first, I would say, fall guy, but the
Mhm.
other people. um yeah, you said analysts. I think players too, like staff. This to me, over the next like 10 weeks or whatever, till the end of the season,
Mhm.
I think there's going to be a lot of people losing their jobs and
Or,
or
or resigning.
resigning. And also there are other people involved that's outside of football. So we're talking about um the who one of the co-founders of Hooters. He was on an email thread with Gruden when he was saying different stuff.
Mhm.
And I think another owner of PDQs, like another big time CEO. So I think this is it's going to be beyond football.
Mhm.
And that's why I think this is a big deal. So, you know, um we gotta look out for that. And for those of you who are listening or do want to join, the number is 718-313-5155. If you want to say something about what's happening. But yeah, they're gonna be a lot of people who are gonna get caught with this scandal. uh
I like
you, you know it got- my poor like I said in the beginning of the show, this an episode or a segment of MSNBC was dedicated to this last night, where one of the presidents of the cheerleading association, I'm misrepresenting the group, but she came on the show and was talking about everything. And I'm chilling with my mother last night, and the first thing she said was, how stupid could he be to write this down?
Well, I think I wouldn't say necessarily stupid. It's just one of those things that he thought that he wasn't going to get caught,
Right.
and this has pretty much been hidden for years.
A decade, pretty much. And I don't want to really go down this hole, but I will do it anyway. But like, there's a level of privilege, I think, right? Because if
Mhm.
you're a coach or you're one of the high executives, you don't think twice. You don't think you're going to get caught,
Mhm.
and there's also, not to use the word privileges, but uh there's a code, right? A code where you kind of keep these things under wraps.
Mhm.
So,
Snitching.
um not that I condone like keeping stuff under wraps, but you know what I'm
Mhm.
saying. Like, a lot of things were violated in this whole process, and we'll see what becomes of it. But I do think it's gonna be going beyond football. Major executives are gonna have to either make a statement, pay a fine, step down from their roles for their companies, because it's a decade worth of emails to go through. So we gotta watch that. We got Jamil, sorry, from 2MW, says he thought his boys would keep it
Yep.
quiet. Yeah. And to a point, Jamil, they did. This wasn't somebody snitching, right? Right. This wasn't somebody telling on it. It's just
They found it by
homeboy got
accident.
caught by the DEA.
Mhm.
Like, that's I don't know much about the DEA, but that sounds like a lot of hardcore stuff. It looks like it looks like there's some deep doo doo that happens there. And like, to have to have your stuff audited by them means like you're on watch, and they have an idea that there are bigger things that you may be up to. And this happened to be leaked, right?
Mhm.
um so yeah, I'm gonna look out for that and see what's happening. So that's a coach. I guess the behavior, the what is it? His boys would keep it quiet, like the behind the scenes, I guess,
Mhm.
behavior of certain coaches
Yep.
are a lot different than what we see on TV. And I think it's there's an aspect of this that I say it's part of the game, and there's an aspect of this being like you gotta be smarter, sir.
He has a future in satellite radio.
Right, right. He has a future of being like a co-host on a 2MW podcast.
Hey,
Yeah.
more than welcome.
That's what some other podcast. Anyway, speaking on other coaches, we're gonna move right into Kyrie and so the Brooklyn Nets are kind of sort of like separating from him. And it's a controversial topic because we're in year 2, but we're still in the midst of a pandemic, and so there are a lot of people that have an opinion about whether should people should take the vaccine and whether people shouldn't. And the net for Kyrie is that Kyrie well, it's assumed right now he's currently not vaccinated, and he released like a live statement today that said, well, he just he's not standing up on behalf of the people, but he's for the people. Like he's trying to make sure that people like he thought, well, it was messed up that certain people were losing their jobs over the mandate, and that's where he is right now. um and to me there was a whole lot to unpack from that. Let's stay on the coaches theme and talk about coaching, the reason why a team would make this decision that they need to fully separate, because the option was that he can play away games, right? But
Mm-hmm.
not home games. So that's 40, maybe
21,
41 games of
21
the
games.
year he would be able to play, and the other 41 he would not until, he got the vaccine. So what first of all, what are your thoughts about what the Nets did? And then from a coaching perspective, can you understand, or do you think that they should have been a little bit more flexible?
No, I'm behind him 100%. I
Mhm.
mean, I kind of see where Kyrie's coming from because a lot of people right now they're skeptical of this vaccine,
Mm.
um, and basically, in Kyrie's case, Kyrie is set for life. He's a
Mm.
multi-millionaire. If you're really down for the people, as he claims he is, start paying their rent or their mortgage. Other than that, just doing it. Okay, I'm not gonna take this vaccine. I'm not gonna play. I'm not gonna do, go to practice. But meanwhile, the people in the real world, they got fired for their beliefs.
Mm.
So, to me, I think it's just. I mean, I like Kyrie. I mean, he is a nutcase. He
Mhm.
he's in his own world. Um, but if he really was to take a stand, uh, like I said, start paying these people rent and
People
mortgage.
that Yeah, the people that got lost their jobs.
Other than that,
Um
the play.
yeah. I so I'm 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 vaccinated, so let's start from there. But like,
I've been delaying it. I mean, I'm
mhm,
gonna take it, just like
right.
taking my time.
So here's my thing. I am like, okay, if you want to make the choice or not, right? But if you choose not, right? And the mandate for the state is that you can't, or the team or the state is that you can't play home games.
Mhm.
You actually force yourself out of the game. And
Yeah,
here's why. All right. So um she said, what's the number? The number is 718-313-5155, right? Um you force yourself out of the game because logistically speaking, it's very difficult to to come up with a game plan that would you would only use 50% of the time.
Hmm.
I would, as a coach, like when we start scrimmages and practices early, we let's say back in my youth we have like 5 6 plays 7 plays that we would go through. Never have I once said like every I mean listen, you should be able to rotate the players into every position. That's
Hmm.
from your squad. So here's the pro side of keeping like Kyrie still on, regardless of whether he's vaccinated or not. Your plays should be able to allow you to substitute every player for every position, whether it's point guard, shooting guard, off guard, power forward, small forward. Power forward, center. All right, and you can plug and play players in certain situations. But if you fast forward to the playoffs, let's say he still doesn't have the vaccine, right?
Hmm.
And you got to go 7 games,
Yep.
right?
You saw what happened to them when it was just KD.
Right? You kind of put your team in a spot where they can't depend on you or literally draw up plays that evolve you across the 7 games. Let's say if it goes to 7, let's see if it even goes to like 5, right? You still got to play several home games. You pretty much put the team at a disadvantage because you can't do it, you can't be there.
Hmm.
So it's almost like they just have to it's almost like you have to just not play with him there, you know, like to do a long-term decision.
To go forward.
um
Battle.
there's a question here. He's like, why does he need a plan? When did he say he's Messiah? I mean, what do
Well,
you
he never
mean?
said he was. I guess he's responding to Jamil.
Oh, okay. So the first comment was Kyrie is a huge heart. He thinks he's some sort of Messiah, but has no message or plan worth following. Why does he need a plan? When did he say he's a Messiah? Well, here's the thing, uh Creek. He doesn't have to have a plan, and nobody deems him a Messiah. The thing about it is that he has a platform with millions that follow him. So even though he doesn't formally say, I'm here to lead the people, I'm here because of, this is I'm the leadership of this segment of people that haven't taken the vaccine, they're gonna immediately follow him because he is a prominent person in
Mm-hmm.
that platform, in that area, or in with their opinion, sorry. And that's a good representative of them, right? So when you have somebody with a similar belief that's a celebrity, you automatically are like the leader, the speaker, the one that can be heard, because everybody can't, right?
Hmm.
So that's pretty much why he's in this position. You know, here's the thing: if he's willing to put the money on the line, then yeah, he truly then believes this, and that's the other side. Like, some people would have been like, oh, they're gonna take away my extension, which was like 190 something million. I'm
Hmm.
just gonna, like, all right, let me get this vaccine and call it a day, but like I'm still be mad, right? But he hasn't budged.
At
So
least not yet.
not yet. Not yet. He hasn't pulled the Ben Simmons as of yet. But
That's
he's
another story.
yeah, that's another story. Next week, by the way, we're gonna do part 2 of the Ben Simmons saga. We did one last week, and now he's back, so we gotta bring it back.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so coaching makes Kyrie's stance makes it difficult to coach if you're like in you're Steve Nash. And Steve Nash released a statement that said that it's basically, the headline on ESPN says Brooklyn Nets coach Steve Nash calls the team's decision on Kyrie difficult but sound, right? Um And so the sound part is just like I said, it's very hard to coach if you're not like to keep consistency with your go-tos if your main one of your main guys is only there 50% of the time, right?
Mhm.
Imagine in the heat of a game and you're like, oh my God, listen, Kyrie, go in. And you're like, shit, oh, it's home game. He's not here. Right? Like, like even something even something basic as that kind of threw it off. But to make for the Nets to make this decision right now, they must feel that Kyrie has communicated to them that there's no waiver in what his stands for. So long term, they just like shut the door, or someone internally may have said something, right? Um, I don't want to speculate, but from a coach's perspective, it is very difficult to coach with your player half the time.
It's also
Again,
distracting.
huh?
It's also distracting for the team, so that's probably another reason why they did it too.
True.
No one wants to keep answering questions about Kyrie when the remaining guys on the squad, all came together, for a common goal, and that's to, win championship. So,
Right.
in a sense, it's kind of selfish on Kyrie's part because he did get KD to come over here, and also I think he played a part in James Harden wanting to come over, and players like LaMarcus Aldridge, Paul Millsap, Blake Griffin, Patty Mills. These dudes could have went anywhere else, and they
Yeah.
all decided to come to Brooklyn. So, like Kyrie, he needs to like. I know life is bigger than basketball, but when you're on a team, you basically are taking a vow with these 11 guys to go into the trenches. So
Yeah.
you got to put your personal beliefs. If they went and did it, then he needs to come on the board.
Right. Jamil brought up a question. The Lakers all discussed this and are on the same page. Did Kyrie not talk to his teammates? No, probably didn't. It's a personal decision. I don't think he has to talk to his teammates.
Because they all grown men at the end of the day.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're all grown. They didn't think they had to, but you know, or they thought, well, maybe everyone would eventually do it. They assumed, and then they assumed different. So do you think that one last question? Do you think Kyrie would you call this Kyrie letting his teammates down, or would you call it something else?
Um, I wouldn't say let his team down yet because the season didn't start yet.
Mm,
So I think it's just more of a little bit selfishness on this part. So we'll see what happens when the season starts or whatever. I mean, I have faith that he would get his acts together.
right. All right. So let's talk about the Jordan rules. So before
Mm.
we get into coaching, um tell me why people should really read this book. And again, like I said in the beginning, you started sending me screenshots of different
Mhm.
wild things that you saw
I'm
in the
open
book,
rope.
and then we
Mhm.
decided to do it because Scottie Pippen is supposed to be releasing his book next month,
Yeah.
and he might be dropping dime on a whole bunch of stuff.
Mhm.
We all know that Pippen might be a little petty, but tell me why you think that really beyond watching the game on TV, like why this book kind of opened your eyes.
Okay, so we all saw the Last Dance. When do you remember what month that they started releasing little tidbits here and there about Pippin's book? Was that like around June? Was that May, June?
Yeah, June. Well, he started acting kind of strange, quote
Around
unquote,
that
right? He started doing some wild things on TV, but
then he got the
yeah,
verb coming out.
yeah,
So for years I always wanted to catch up on a lot of books, and Jordan Rules is one of them. So um when I got it, and I actually bought the book last when I bought it, I think it was like last year or early this year, but I finally read it September.
Right.
So as I'm reading the book, and then it's like it just hit me like a brick wall. I'm like, wait a minute. Everything that's in the book was said in The Last Dance.
Mm.
And that's when I started putting the correlation, together. And then that's when I started like screenshotting you, like, yo, look at this. Like, this isn't brand new. This
Right.
what
Right.
this is, and this book was written. The book came out what 91, 92.
Right.
They're documenting. He goes back to the 90 season.
Right. 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 Well, even a little
So
bit
it's
before
like
that,
30
but
years ago.
yeah.
So in the Last Dance, you know, 'cause I remember we was talking like back and forth
Right.
after each week, and it looked like Scotty was broke or whatever,
Yeah.
uh, which wasn't the case,
Right.
and then you got these Jordan haters, which I can't understand for the life of me, like why, like it's as if Jordan took their woman,
Right.
or like it doesn't make any sense. So um when Pippen first came into the league, when he
Mhm.
said when um one of the things that Pippen said, he thought that he was better than Jordan coming out of college.
Wow.
He thought,
Yeah.
yeah, go back. I think it was episode I want to say episode 4 or 5, whichever one
Yeah.
that went into Pippen and him growing up and his father catching the stroke and stuff like that.
Mhm.
Uh, he mentioned that he felt that he was better than Jordan coming out of college, and then he uh, that view changed.
Right.
Um, so in the Last Dance, you know how they was talking about Scotty always wanted security.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in but the what the Last Dance didn't mention was players like Bill Cartwright, uh, B.J. Armstrong, I think, Stacey King, Cliff Leviston, which I think was the last straw, were all getting paid more than Pippen, all because
Right.
of the contract, because Pippen was there first, so Pippen was still under the rookie contract.
Right.
So the beginning of the 90-91 season, and I'm surprised they didn't mention this in the Last Dance, which they should have. Scotty was threatening to sit out, basically pull a Ben Simmons.
Right.
That's
Right.
what
I
he was
think
gonna
they
do.
did mention something in the
Because
last
he
dance.
was with he was with his family, and then which he likes to go over the summer. Then he drives back up to
Right.
Chicago. So he was toying with the idea of sitting out, and he sat out for like about, I think, like a day or two, when in actuality he was just like hanging out in a hotel room.
Right.
And he was communicating with his agent because he thought that this would get Jerry Krause and Jerry Reinsdorf to act faster.
Mm.
So throughout the book, um, Jerry Reinsdorf, which I think he was a good owner, but I felt that he could have been a little bit more assertive,
Right.
and instead of leaving everything to Krause, and everyone hated Krause. Jordan,
Yeah.
Pippen, Grant, Armstrong, Cartwright, Stacey King, Cliff Leviston, Craig Hodges, John Paxson. Nobody liked Jerry Krause because
Right.
Jerry Krause always tried to shortchange them.
Jerry Krause was I mean, let's not to talk about looks, but he was kind of like
Yeah,
what you call a little bit messy. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
They always call him what in the book they said they call him a GM, the crumbs, like they call him
yes, the crumbs
crumbs.
because he always had donut
Mr.
crumbs on his
Crumbs always had crumbs
uh,
on. But Mr. Crumbs
computer.
is a very shrewd businessman.
Yes,
And
but he always
so that's
uh,
pretty much why he probably got the flexibility that he did to just stick around, right? Because he made a couple of decisions that I
yeah,
think the book said that he talked. Steinbrenner out of like to sell him the stake that he had in the Bulls or something like that. There's
Yes.
something in the book that I read, but I was like, wow, so you were
Mhm.
able to predict this beforehand? Like you're you know,
Mhm.
you're pretty good. Um but I
And
want
he
to
was
stay
good.
on I want huh?
He was good at what he did, but
Yeah,
they couldn't stand him as as a person.
right.
And Jerry Krause, all he wanted to do was just fit in. Like the impression I got off him was that that kid in high school or whatever who just wants to be a part of something. They want to be, the it crowd or whatever. They want
Mhm.
to be accepted, and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
more he tried, the worse he came
Right.
on. But
Right.
as far as his business skills, he did a lot. He drafted Jordan, he drafted Grant, and they orchestrated the trade. Yes, people, Pippen was not drafted by Chicago. He was
Right.
traded on draft night for Olden Polynice.
Mm.
And then the following year, what was that? Going into '88, I forgot who they drafted, but then they drafted B.J. Armstrong and
Right.
Stacey King, and a lot of people uh, may not realize this, and I think I told you this. The Bulls had a chance to draft Tim Hardaway and Sean Kemp, but they chose Stacey King and B.J. Armstrong.
Oh, wow.
Mhm. They had a chance.
Wow.
Now, just
That
imagine.
that's the next episode. Missed
Yes,
opportunities. Like
yes.
what could have, would have, should have.
Uh,
Damn. I almost forgot about that.
yep.
Um so let's hop into the coaching because that's the theme of the today, right?
Mhm.
Um I sent you a note yesterday because in the book I noticed how like basically how disrespected Doug Collins was
Yes.
in this
Yes.
book.
Mhm.
And just like the whole thing with Gruden, you're like, oh, well, as an analyst, everybody loved them. Like they were amazing, right?
Mhm.
And even Doug Collins on TV, like you love him.
Mhm.
Amazing. But to read the book, I'm like, hold up.
Mhm.
They didn't like people just did not respect him at all as a
Nah.
coach. And
Mhm.
you would never like maybe we're a little bit behind like we're before our time but during our time but we didn't have no sense back like we were kind of young not young so we don't understand like the dynamics of coaches and players but like we love Doug Collins. He's great
Mhm.
analyst on TV like
Yes.
how
I like.
so bring up Doug Collins did something in the book that or the basically the book described it as the reason why Jordan didn't respect um Doug Collins was because he didn't stand up to Michael Jordan.
um. Um.
So I want you right because I'm a sweet little woman,
Coaches I couldn't
right?
stand.
And you are a man, a guy who has played sports. You
Mhm.
like you encounter other guys, you got to size each other up. Tell me why that was important or that is important in sports for the coach to stand up to the players.
Basically, um, you want your coach. You want that feeling that your coach has the final say. Like, it happens in life, whether it's sports or in the office or whatever. Like, people play favorites, and favoritism is what gets people over. It's not what you know, it's who you know.
Mhm.
In that sense, and in Jordan's case, um, I think his favorite coach was the first coach because
Right.
He gave Jordan basically free reign. Now, um, the misconception is that, and we hear it all the time, and I love going after these people. Jordan didn't start winning till Pippen got here, blah blah blah. Yeah, I do realize Pippen was averaging 7 points off the bench. Um, Jordan had pushed Pippen to the player that he became. And it's not just Pippen. What about
Mhm.
Horace Grant?
Right.
Horace Grant was a stud. Like just imagine Horace Grant playing today. 6'10" power forward who has mid range game, and but he was weak. He was
Right.
weak. So
When
he
you
was
see
getting
he was weak, he was. I wouldn't call it weak.
no. Well, don't think of Horace Grant when they won the championship. Think of Horace Grant his first 2 seasons in the league.
Okay.
And you'll see what I mean. Because
Okay.
even mentioned in the book that he used to get bullied down low by
Hmm.
bigger players. So the I can't remember everything off the top of my head. The book is somewhere around here. I'm gonna just try to go off memory right now. I can't remember who the second coach was. I think Doug Collin might have been. He was either coach number 3 or
Yeah, he was coach number 3.
coach number 3. Okay, so
Mhm.
he was coach number 3, and um, what year is that? I think that was Jordan's 4th season when he
Yeah.
won the his first MVP when
So it was
Chicago went
80.
15-32.
Okay, so Jordan broke his leg in 85, 86. Doug Collins. Um, let's see. Alback. Alback was it? Was Alback the coach you're talking about?
Yeah,
Okay. So I'm talking about 1987 through, was it 89?
89 was Collins' last season when they
Okay.
lost to Detroit in the
Yes, yes.
finals. Phil
The
Jackson
States.
was already the assistant. So when
Yes.
uh wait, I'm losing my thought. Oh yeah, when Chicago started winning, so basically it was like give the ball to Michael, like he said when he hit that game winner in Cleveland. Give the ball to Michael, and everyone else get the f out the way.
Right.
That was pretty
Right.
much that was pretty much Chicago's game plan
Right.
because Jordan didn't trust his teammates. Like in the book, like it's in chapter 1, and he says Scottie Pippen and Horace Grant has the talent, but they don't take it serious.
Right.
And then he mentioned a couple other things, and then everyone else wasn't worth shit, pretty much, in his eyes. So this is why Jordan had an issue um, giving reins to the coach.
Right.
So Doug Collins is just basically trying to keep his star player happy.
Right. And keeping them happy isn't really,
Yeah.
I guess, thing. So I want to read an example from the book.
Mhm.
The same thing you said about 89, 90. So this was, like you said, when they played against Detroit. Um, it basically said the power struggle between Jordan and Collins never more evident than in the 1990 playoffs against Detroit. In the fifth game of the conference finals, Jordan attempted 8 shots. The Bulls lost and were
Oh yes.
eliminated.
You remember
Yeah.
who did that also? Kobe did the same thing.
Oh, really? Kobe did.
Kobe
Okay,
did
we
the
we we
exact
got to go back and
same
find that. Jordan attempted 8 shots. The Bulls lost and were eliminated at home in the next game. And the questions flew at Jordan and Collins after the game. And they kept it under the wraps. They said it was double teaming that really was the reason why Jordan only took 8 shots. But
No, he was trying to make a
yeah,
point.
Jordan was trying to make a point against this coach. It said, but Collins and Jordan knew otherwise. The coach had told Jordan he was shooting too much. He
Mhm.
had he had taken 31% of the team's shots in the first 4 games. Collins felt more players had to be involved in the offense for the team to be effective. Jordan, who usually took such suggestions as criticism, took only 8 shots to make a point.
Mhm.
So let's talk about criticizing, right? You're allowed to stand up to a player, but you can't criticize them. Like, what's the fine line here?
Well, who knows what's said behind closed doors, or it's not
Yeah.
what you said, it's how you say it. So
Right.
who
Right.
knows what was being said at that time. Like basically it stems back to what I was saying before. Like Jordan did not trust anybody
Right.
in on that Bulls roster. When you look at that roster, his first season, uh, they were horrible. I mean, they got into the playoffs. I know some people want to say that, oh, they had a losing record. Listen, at the end of the day, I mean, we're still seeing that today. Like teams
Right.
with records make playoffs, not just the
Right.
NBA, the NFL too. So it happens. It's always gonna happen.
Right.
It's not going nowhere. Um, you can only be like the top 8 teams in your conference. That's all you need to do. Just be better than, you know, be better than 6 teams
Right.
in your conference and in you in the playoffs. So uh they got in, and then the following year they got George Gervin, Iceman,
Mhm.
and that was Iceman's pretty much last season in the league. Jordan broke his foot his third game of the season. When he came back, I really wish they had utilized Gervin more. I mean, who knows? Maybe Chicago could have won a game instead of getting swept. Who knows? But the following year, they won 40 games, lost 42. Who was the coach that year? Was that Phil Collins' first year when they went 40 and 42?
Um, I'm not sure actually. Um, I'm gonna try to skip through the chapter right now. Actually, maybe I could look up basketball reference. Um, but um, yeah, I think that. Hold on, let me look at basketball
Because
reference.
while you're looking for it, I remember what was it in the Jordan rules? His first game. I think that's when Jordan dropped 50 in the Garden, where he told
Right.
Collins, "I'm not gonna let you lose your first game," and they
Yes.
wind up winning that.
Yes.
Um,
So, I mean, at that point, he's for him, right?
yeah,
So, let's
Jordan was
see.
never anti coach. But there's also I don't know if a lot of people read it. If you read the book, you'll know what I'm about to say. Those who's listening, Jordan didn't like Phil Jackson either at first,
Right.
or
Right.
Texas. Matter of fact, the team, Pippen,
So
Grant,
what
they were
what
all
about what about Phil didn't they like?
basically when the reins was taken from Collins to go to Phil. Remember, Phil was the assistant, and he was trying to get Phil Collins to implement the triangle offense. Phil Collins, as stated in The Last Dance, wasn't trying to hear that. But I think Kraus wanted to, um, start implementing in the system because Kraus really liked Tex Winters. And the triangle offense, that's Tex Winters' creation, not Phil Jackson's. It's Tex Winters. So
Mhm.
um, when they lost to Detroit, and they wanted to go in a new direction, the first thing that Phil did was, he spoke to Jordan, and he was like, you have to get other people involved. So you may
Mhm.
not win the scoring title. You may not win the scoring title. And at that time,
Right.
this is what Jordan was doing. Now, Jerry Reinsdorf didn't mind that because Jordan scoring all these points, it's
Brought
bringing people into
brought the
the
fans in.
league.
Yeah.
And the league don't mind it either because, okay, the league was struggling. Larry Bird and Magic Johnson, yes, saved the league, but then Jordan took it to another level. And then
Right.
after Jordan, you had players like Iverson and Kobe and T Mac. They took it to another level, and then LeBron, D Wade, and Melo, they took it to another level. And now we're seeing LaMelo and Zion, John Morant. they're going to take it to the next level. There's always going to be someone to take that baton and
Right.
go to the next level. So um Jordan was totally against it, and he was totally against it because he had no faith in them. So it worked for a little bit, like the beginning of the 90-91 season. The first couple of games, Jordan tried his hardest to play under that system, and Chicago lost their first 3 games. So
Right.
yeah, I didn't see the meme going around. Um, Michael Jordan's Bulls. Michael Jordan hasn't lost 3 straight games since 1990. That's the start of the
Right.
90 season. So what Jordan started doing was like, nah, after this, um, the team the team can't win if I'm not scoring. So he'll score his points.
Right.
He'll have a good high scoring game. Then best believe the next game, Phil Jackson is going to make sure that Jordan is not going to drop 40, because then like there was bickering behind the scenes, particularly from Pippen, Grant,
Right.
Cartwright, and Armstrong. Well, not really Armstrong, but Grant, Cartwright, and Pippen. Those were the three that were lamented, because in Cartwright's eyes, it's like, okay, you're this great player, get everyone involved. In Pippen's eyes, oh, I'm as good as you, I'm
Right.
going to get paid. Horace Grant is just like, I just want to get involved. I want to score points too. And then BJ Armstrong was beginning to, uh, felt like he should have been starting over
Right.
Tom Paxson.
Over Paxson.
Mhm.
So I there's a lot of stuff that you said in that, and I wanted to know, like, so Jordan really had to buy into the
Mhm.
team game,
Yep.
and that was really what turned things around
Yes.
for Phil Jackson and the Chicago Bulls as a
The
unit.
success. Mhm.
Um, but you're mentioning there's still some dissension about,
Mhm.
and it's rooted in the managing of egos.
Yes.
So Phil Jackson, you said, took a risk. Basically, he would appease Jordan one game, but
Mhm.
then
Well, it's not even appease. It's
mm,
more like Jordan just, blatantly went against it, and Chicago will win. So then the following game, you'll see Jordan getting hot. There was one game that Jordan had like a hot start or whatever,
mhm,
and Phil sat him down the entire fourth quarter, and then that's when it hit Jordan like, yo, he's really trying not to let me win the scoring title. Like
right,
it was like really like on his mind. So basically, he started like implementing, okay, get the team involved, and that's what Phil wanted, and
mhm,
also players like Cartwright and Grant, get the team involved in the beginning first, and then you take over in the fourth quarter when we need you. So get everyone involved, and then like if you started looking at Jordan's career, like later part in the year, you saw just that. Like he would step back, try to get everyone involved,
right,
then
right,
he'll take over in the fourth quarter. Like I have Rare Air, the book that when he came out,
mhm,
when he retired in '93, and in it he says it's easy for him to average 32 points. He says it's just 8 points a quarter, which is basically you just score 4 times in a quarter.
right,
When you break it down, is real easy. So if he had that mindset, okay, all I gotta do is score, you know, 8 points a quarter. Why can't he average 40, or why can't any other player average 40 in this, no touch, era? Just score 5 times,
right,
5 times a
right,
quarter.
right. So just to summarize what we said, the
Mhm.
way to coach a star is stand up to them,
Stand up to them.
but don't criticize.
Yes, pretty much.
To
Like,
to don't disrespectfully criticize.
yes, I mean, like when I had my Brooklyn Viper team,
Mm-hmm.
and our best player actually, he's playing overseas. I was hoping that you know, Brooklyn Nets or the New York Knicks will pick him up. His name is Dimitri Conger,
Mm-hmm.
and they call him Big Meech out here in the New York City playground scene. And matter of fact, if anyone watches TBT, the basketball tournament, y'all
Right.
saw him over there too. So I can't remember what team he was playing for, but he was playing on the Boston Celtics summer league team back in 18. Um, so when he came over, whatever limited games that we had, and I'm basically player, coach, GM. We let him do whatever he wants.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Very,
Yeah.
he's a very, very humble guy. Very, very humble guy. Like as talented as he is. Like I remember when he put on a show in Showcase, and I remember just talking to him the next day, and like what I'm telling him, and he just absorbed it. He was very humble, very, very humble. And I'm like, wow, this guy is like probably the best player that I ever played with.
Right.
And hopefully the world gets to see him. And then another player that I played with, my boy Justin Bright, he's actually coaching Carmelo Anthony's son.
Okay.
So look out for him in a couple of years. And he too is
Is
very
he treating
familiar.
him the same way, or is he like tough on him because he's a kid? When I say tough,
Now
I
he's
mean with quotes. Like
now I'm pretty sure because him and Melo, they was out because Melo was like I think sponsoring their AAU team or whatever like
okay,
that. So they was like traveling and stuff like that. So he's fair.
right,
He's fair on them. Just because celebrity son. You're gonna get this work pretty much.
right, right,
So it like we've seen like star players get preferential treatment. Um, like the best of the best players. Um, when you high school players and you try to recruit them, come to college and stuff like that. We know what goes on in there.
right.
Parties, the girls and stuff like that. They ain't just coming there just for education. So,
So okay, so we're gonna sometimes give them their way, but not all the time.
yeah,
Yeah, sometimes give the players,
superstar treatment.
yeah, give them the star treatment because they earned it,
Hmm.
but like don't always treat them like a star.
Yeah,
Treat them like part of the galaxy,
yeah,
right? With the other stars
yeah.
too.
If you
Like
could
get
treat,
all the other stars involved.
I think you get respect from everybody if you could treat the number one guy the same way as you treat the 15th man on the roster
Right,
on the football, the 53rd, or the practice players. If you could treat everyone the same, I think you're gonna get as an athlete, you're gonna get more respect.
right. And the last one is buy into like make sure the players can buy into the
Buy
bigger
into the
picture.
system. Yep,
Buy into the system.
and that's what led into Chicago's success. Once
Mhm.
Jordan bought into the system, I know we hear that cliche a lot, but it's true. Once he bought into the system, and then everyone else pretty much fell into line. But
Right,
when there was like a whole lot of drama going on that season, like how they wanted Stacey King to be this player that he never turned out to be, and Pippen has seen all this, so Pippen is like, I'll be damned if Stacey King and Cliff Levingston is making more money than me,
right,
this this season. So that's where the jealousy was coming from. So Jordan didn't really care, even though he was the highest paid player on the team, not in the league, but he was getting his money in endorsements, so it didn't really bother him that much. But we see the same thing now. That TV contract that they signed with NBC,
right.
that's what helped them out a lot also. Because you remember in the book also, uh, people don't know this either. Jordan was gonna leave the NBA and go play in Europe because he had the
Yeah.
opportunity to get paid $10 million a year,
Oh.
and the contract was supposed to expire in '96. So that contract that he signed in what 88, 89, that
Right.
contract was going to expire in '96, and he was going to go play overseas and potentially own a team.
Gotcha.
So
Gotcha. And then things kind of changed
yeah,
from
things
there.
changed with the
Yeah.
TV contract,
Yeah.
and then
And then he was earning like 30 million a year at some point,
yeah,
right?
mhm. It was
Mm-hmm.
supposed to be 40. That '98 season was supposed to be 40 million, but
Wow.
he got 30.
Yeah. I mean, listen, I'm really glad you kind of got me into this book.
Mhm.
Because
It's
I'm
a great
like,
read. I think everyone should read it.
yeah, I'm kind of like, wow, like everything that I thought, even the last dance exposed about a bunch of things, but this was eye opening on how the coaches in the background and had those struggles with the players. So the next week we're gonna do another topic.
Mhm.
We'll see. I want to read some more pages. Like I'm probably almost done, but like I have my highlights. So I'm gonna go through my highlights and
Mhm.
see like what were the shocking things. So um
I was just finding gems. I know I was like kind of like all over.
yeah.
Like,
The whole like he's not gonna let me get the scoring title
yeah.
is I'm like, what? Like that's high risk, my friend, because if
Mhm.
some players you gotta give that to them, at least in this era. So
Yeah.
maybe next episode we could compare something from that era to this era and how it's different. Old school versus new school, how they deal with something. So everybody look out for that. I want to thank Jeremy. We gotta go ahead and watch some football right now. But yeah, this is a Jordan Rules podcast one, the road to Pippin, I guess.
Mhm. Be
All right.
continued next week.
Yeah, to be continued next week. All right, bye.